The purpose of this video is to show you what I think are the hardest items to farm in Warframe, and why I still prefer the grind in Warframe compared to the hellish farming in the First Descendant right now. I love both games, and it's fun jumping from Warframe to the First Descendant, juggling into new content. Honestly, I think these are the two best free-to-play looter shooters right now, and I always think that it's a win for gamers like me to have multiple games to play within the same genre. This is because when there's no new content in Warframe, I can enjoy the First Descendant and vice versa. However, the First Descendant has some serious farming issues that the developers need to address right now, and they have shown this with the recent Season 1 Invasion update. I know that they are making some changes to how you can farm Haley right now, but I just want to issue a warning that if they will keep on doing this kind of thing in their future update, then they will piss off their player base. Although they are making some changes on the fly and making the older grind less tedious, I'm just scared that they will continue to change the grind for older content and make it easier. But they will add new content, which are absurd grind fest on top of one of the worst RNG mechanic in the game. As I have said, I want both of these games to succeed so players like me will have variety, but right now, it's not going well for the First Descendant. However, I can't deny the fact that Warframe also has some of the worst grind in the game that I ever encountered, but Digital Extremes made changes, and this is the main reason why the game is still thriving after 11 years in the gaming industry. A good example of this is the grind for legendary arcanes, and more specifically, the grind for Arcane Energize, which was the worst in the past since you only get these arcanes from trials or the early raid system of Warframe that was demolished and replaced with Eidolon hunting. The Eidolon hunting was way better as it removes exclusivity to get legendary arcanes, but only if you are with a good clan. However, it has faced some issues, especially on how low the drop rates of these legendary arcanes, not to mention that the hunt is time gated and you will need to wait for a couple of hours per day to do the special mission. After a couple of years, the Eidolon hunt was not also exciting and it felt like a chore, hence the developers added the arcane dissolution system, which lets you dissolve your unused arcanes to phosphor. And then you can use this new resource to buy the legendary arcane that you want. The best part is, the developers somehow integrated the new system into the normal grind of Warframe, and right now you can easily farm Steel Path Arcane, and as well as Void Cascade Arcanes. With this new system, it's way easier right now to grind for those legendary arcanes. Another grind fest in Warframe is the Lich or Sister of Parvos, which takes time to do because of the Murmur farm. But in my opinion, the Kuva and Tenet weapons are better and more powerful rewards compared to most guns in the First Descendant right now. Most of the guns in the First Descendant are cool, and they have unique abilities also, but most of them are also underwhelming, and they are sometimes used only as stat sticks so a Descendant can have the full power of a reactor because of its required weapon mounting. I know also the fact that I am comparing the content of an 11-year-old game to the newly released First Descendant, but we won't be having this conversation if we don't see any similarities in how things work for both games. We can't deny that how modding a Descendant and weapon in the First Descendant is the same thing as what we have in Warframe for 11 years. Also, we can't deny the fact that Warframe has been implementing the same relic systems, just like how we get characters and weapons with the amorphous materials in the First Descendant. Finally, the way Prime Access works in Warframe is the same as how Ultimate Descendants and weapons works in the First Descendant. What I'm trying to say is, if they got inspired by Warframe system, at least they could have made changes to make it better, because it seems to me that amorphous materials right now are the worst version of the relic system in Warframe. I don't mind the drop rates, as it's expected with any games with RNG mechanics, but at least they could have made it better, and also included the feature wherein you can open the same amorphous material with your friends and can get the parts that you are farming from another player. Just like how Warframe's cooperative farming works with their relic system, let's be honest for a moment here, both relic systems and amorphous materials are identical, and we all know that Warframe did it first. If Nexon got inspired by this system, then at least they should have made it better and not a worse version of Warframe's relic system. Aside from the leech system, another worst grind in Warframe is when farming for your necromech, which may take a while before you can get and build all parts, but I promise you, it's all worth it, especially if you are aiming to get Void Rig first. This is because the Cornbot has lots of usages, and it does tons of damage even against Steel Path bosses such as the Eidolons and the Plains, or even those Tusk Thumper units. I also want to include those items in Warframe that are considered by the player base worst because they are hard to get and not worth the grind at all. Some of these are weapons such as the Hespar set, the Syntabow set, and as well as the old Vandal parts, which have very low drop rates in Sanctuary Onslaught. Players might attribute these items as the worst of the worst grind in Warframe, as aside from the fact that they are hard to get, they also lack usefulness in real missions. Warframe fans would rather grind for ephemeras that have lower drop rates than these items, as you can make your Warframe fancy with these cosmetics compared to farming for weapons that are just mastery rank fodders. But here's the thing though, all this worst grind in Warframe can be solved with one feature, and that is player trading, which allows you to trade items in the game in exchange for premium currency. In fact, you can target farm items such as prime parts and sets, as well as legendary arcanes right now, so you can sell them to other players and get platinum. Investing in this grind will give you enough platinum to buy almost all the things in Warframe, skipping all those hellish time-consuming farms of the game. I know that Warframe had no player trading system before, and they only implemented it after they saw that their player base was slowly dwindling because of the hellish grind. You might say that it's too early to put trading in the first Descendant, as it took Warframe years to implement it, and the first Descendant might get better once they added the new vendor that allows you to sell useless items to get a currency which you can use to buy items from the vendor. This is somehow similar to how the Void Trader in Warframe works, and this might lower the grind by a ton. The only problem though is that if they will implement this feature, they should not follow the same rotation of the Void Trader, and instead, they should somehow make at least a weekly basis, wherein the new vendors will bring a different stuff to trade with players. If they include all the parts as well as the ultimate variants in this new vendor, then they won't need a player trading feature anymore in my opinion. Take this information with a grain of salt though, as it's not yet confirmed whether we will see the same feature as the Void Trader in Warframe, but assuming that Nexon is a fan of digital extremes, there's a strong possibility that they will implement the same system. This is just me, but I think that some of the system in the first Descendant was heavily influenced by the early days of Warframe. Like Nexon is using the same methods and slowly improving their game just like Warframe did over the years. Because of this, they usually receive criticisms that Warframe is way better because the old systems have been improved already, and I think that if Nexon wants to get rid of any scrutiny, then they should just make a new system or feature that is way better than Warframe. Honestly, the first Descendant performed better during its launch compared to Warframe. Boredom might be a factor, as Destiny 2 and Warframe players might want to try another new game within the same genre, and it so happens that the first Descendant released on the peak of Destiny 2 scrutiny and Warframe's lack of content for veteran players. The first Descendant is beautiful, and I would love to keep on playing Lepik, Eugen, and Ajax. Although the story is bland, the moment-to-moment gameplay of the first Descendant feels really refreshing and fun for me. I also love the boss battles, and while the current module system is not that diverse, and like Warframe, only a select modules are used in most Descendant and weapons. But still, I see the game when it comes to build diversity promising if the developers will add more modules that will give us that peak power fantasy rather than buffs that will trigger for a couple seconds and has insane cooldown. Worst is that giving us modules that has lots of negative effects on our builds and no benefits at all. It's kind of funny because a week ago I have posted a video talking about how the first Descendant could potentially be a good competition for Warframe. If this happens, then we gamers will eat well with good content for years to come. And then came the announcement of Season 1, which trailer was mind-blowing, but after we received the news that they will be cutting the season update into parts, all that hope of the game being good for years to come diminishes. They did address that it will just be cut to 2 parts, but after the Season 1 update drops, all that hype melted. As honestly, the good thing right now about the Invasion update is the new Descendant Haley, which has one of the worst grind, by the way, and if you hate that, then you can just swipe your credit card to buy her for only 900 caliber. I really want the game to succeed, but if they continue making bad decisions like the worst, which is content dripping, then they'll end up losing all their new player base, which is new to the looter shooter genre. They might as well migrate to Warframe, as it has a better system and way easier grind compared to the first Descendant. This all started with Season 1, when they decided to release content bit by bit, and when players saw the grind, some of them disliked it, and like it or not, the first Descendant right now is not in a good spot, and I wish that the developers can learn from their mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes and fix them as soon as possible for a couple of months, but doing it like it's a part of your business model is just wrong and could lead to your game dying before it even started to peak. So that's all about it. Before leaving, I would also like to know your thoughts about the current state of the first Descendant. Clearly Warframe is better in terms of the grind and farm, but I would like to know how you are faring with the grind of the first Descendant and what you think are the things that the developers should improve in the game. Let us discuss this in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again in our next video. Squad Leader signing off.